It's Jefferson, climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Come on! What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the UFC Fight Night Show, sponsored by Run Pure Sports. And as always, we got Drew with us. We got Mr. Mad Lab and not DC running the show. I'm running the show here today. So we'll be talking a little fights here for Saturday. 15 fights on the card. Mad Lab, start with you, man. What's going on here? You ready for this big card?
Yeah, man. On paper, it's a fun card. I don't know how it's going to pan out actually live time, but on paper, it's a fun card. 15 fights on the docket. Makes things a little bit more difficult in DraftKings, but we'll see if we can do it.
Love that. Drew, what's up with you, man? I know you've been into the golf streets a ton. Before we get into fighting with you, did you get a lot of 6-6s? Were you sweating out Bobby Mack, Scotty? No? None of those
Bobby
guys?
Mack. No Bobby Mack. The guy I was sweating ended up not being much of a sweat was Dustin Johnson. Dude just completely just learned how to suck at golf overnight. Late afternoon yesterday and then all day today. So, yeah, not a lot of 6-6s because I planted my flag on him down in the low 9. So, but still have, like, in some smaller field contests, I think 5-6 can still do well if you get the winner or get a couple top 15. So I'm okay. But, yeah, DJ was a bust, and I'm starting to hate on live guys more and more as we go through this season.
Well, I don't want to kind of put you down when you're already a little down, but I actually had the opposite of you with the cut sweat because I had 150 Scotty Scheffler, Bobby Mack lineup. So I actually got the good end of that stick with the 18 hole with Scotty, and he's unbelievable and everything like that. I got a call from Big T like right after it happened. He was like, wow, we got lucky. And I was like, whatever, I'll take it. He'll
finish in the top 10 now.
Oh, for sure.
He's going to finish top 10 or top 5. Like, who knows after tomorrow? He might be like third place. So
I can't bet him to win because it's just too much of a gap. But you do feel like he's just going to get up there and finish top 5. But
he'll just slowly cruise up. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll move on though. We still got 15 fights here for UFC Fight Night card. Aspinall versus Tybura. And Mad Lab, before we just start with fight one, just your overview of this card in general, because a lot of closely lined fights. From a betting perspective, I think it's going to be a really fun card.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. On paper, like I said, that tells you a little bit about the card. Like usually I do a brief overview on paper, and it looked good. And I don't look at Vegas odds until, I'm done. But when I went back and looked, it kind of matched up to what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of dogs that can come out. It's a lot of live dogs, which can make a lot of salary room in your lineups, depending on who you guys like and what paths you think they have. But I think it's going to be a really fun card. Not heavy with name value, but you don't really need names. Sometimes the name value cards aren't that good. Sometimes it's these are the cards. These are the cards sometimes that are really, really fun. It's nice that it's early. You know what I mean? It gets in, it gets out. You still got like kind of your day if you want to enjoy it, depending on what coast you're on. But I think it's going to be really, really fun. I think it's going to go by quick because it's going to be so fun.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. All right, let's start here, and we'll work our way through this 15-fight card. Don't forget, guys, hit the like button on the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, ring that bell at the bottom right-hand corner and get subscribed to the channel. We've got a ton of free shows. I know they just did a Round 3 Showdown show for PGA. We'll have a Round 4 one, so we got all that covered here on Run Pure Sports. And check us out. Use code SUMMER33 for 33% off your first monthly or weekly payment over on the site, and join it because we got some good stuff. The MMA product's been fire, and hopefully we continue it going into this card. First fight, we got, I'm going to butcher a ton of these names, Daniel Barraza versus Filo.
Oh, this is fantastic. I can't.
Mad Lab's dying laughing. I'm the worst. I still remember the one UFC show I hosted 2 years ago, and I just killed every name on the card.
Probably. It happened to me. It happened to me just a couple videos. A couple days ago, I did a video on the big fight coming up on Wednesday in Japan, Inoue and Parkin. So in half of the video, I say Inoue. Then near the end, I start saying Inoue. Bro, the comments on YouTube, yo, bro, you're butchering his name, bro.
Well, come at me for butchering the names because I'm going to do it all night, and I don't give a shit. So it doesn't matter to me anyways. Mad Lab will correct me or just laugh at me if I'm wrong. But Mad Lab, this is one of those fights to start the card. I do think this is an interesting fight that I could see going a few different ways. But what do you see here with this fight?
Yeah, I tend to stay away from the first fight of the night a lot of the times because it's almost like even though if it's a good fight, if you bury your lineup some, you kind of shit the bed. But this is a fight I'm going to actually invest in a little bit because I do think there is upside for a finish here. When you look at Fialo, you look at a guy who, he comes in on a debut against Moikaev, and he literally anyone else he's submitting him, he's tapping. That knee bar was so deep. I mean, his hips were past his knee. You couldn't lock it in any better. So,
by the way, how is he walking after that knee bar?
No, he was hurt. He had some ligament damage.
I know, but like the fact he was even like walking around on it afterwards, like, yeah, he was hurt, but
that's adrenaline, bro. There's a lot of adrenaline involved in that. He's in the heat of the battle, but I mean, all other people probably he wins in that spot, and on that spot, I mean, that was a huge spot for this kid coming in on the debut, fighting a big prospect like that, and almost winning in that spot. Even though the rest of the fight he kind of got worked, but credit to him. And then when you look at Barraza, you look at a guy who he was on the Contender Series. He ended up losing there. He leaves. He goes on his win streak on the regional circuit. Now he comes back. The guy's good. The guy's not a debuting fighter. He does have experience. My problem with him is in these divisions where speed equals so much more than power, he is getting older. So he might be a little bit behind it when it comes to speed. I think it's going to be a very aggressive fight. And I think both of these guys have their upside to finish. So I'm definitely going to grab some shares of the first fight tonight. I think there is a possibility that this fight has a lot of fireworks in it. And even if it goes to the cards, I think that I think he could score very well with transitions, control time, especially with Fialo trying to take the fight down. I'll probably have I'm going to be honest with you, I'll probably have an even set of ownership on this fight.
Yeah, I like this fight. It is the first, fight on the card, but it is tough for me because I do think this fight could score well. I think Fialo, Barraza has a tendency to come out hot. So if he does come out hot and he weathers that first round storm, I could see it kind of slowing down, and that's where Fialo kind of jumps in and has success. I also worry about the level of competition Barraza's fought against Mad Lab. Like, is that something you worry about with someone like him, or do you think he's ready? He's that type of fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about it with a lot of the guys, but you got to remember, he's not the only one. Fialo just fought one really good guy his last fight. So it's like they can only fight who they put in front of him. And if he's winning, he's winning. But I mean, it also does depend on the organization. But yeah, I do. But he does have experience. Like, he's not your normal debuting fighter. My concern is you are a debuting fighter. If you do come under the UFC umbrella at the end of the day, you still got to do the media, and it's still a big thing for you. He knows this might be his only opportunity at the age he is now. So there is definitely pressure on the guy, but he's not like your run-of-the-mill, wet behind the ear debuting fighter that's coming in.
Fair enough. I think this fight's a decent fight from a price tag standpoint on DFS, 7,900, 8,300. I think it's a good fight to target. Drew, what do the numbers say here with this fight? Nope. Sounds really good, but you're on mute.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. I was about to sneeze a minute ago. I didn't want to interrupt Mad Lab. I always forget to unmute. My bad. So I'm not – I guess I got to pronounce these names. Filo, I got at 15.5%, and Alvarez I have at 22%. So for me, I mean, this honestly looks like a coin flip across inside the distance, money line, everything from submission rates. Everything looks like it's basically 50-50, but there's a pretty drastic difference in ownership. So Filo grades out quite a bit better for me. If I had a choice between the two, I would play Filo over Barraza if I have the extra $400. But I will make a stand there with Mad Lab. So I try to do a good job of kind of projecting out my own optimal exposures, I guess. And I have these right at 21% for Filo and 20% for Barraza. So basically, to his point, if you want to have equal exposure to this fight on both sides, that's probably the path forward. There's a good chance this finishes, and at the price tag, it's probably, if it does finish, has enough upside to be in the optimal.
Yeah, I think this fight finishes. So that's another reason why I like this fight. And that I think this fight doesn't go to the cards. I think it's inside the distance. So I think the winner could score well. I'm going to go Fialo winning, but it's a close fight, and I wouldn't argue hard against someone on the other side of it. Let's move, though, to two fighters that I will be able to pronounce their names correctly, because this is actually one of the easier ones. We got Brana Brazil against Shauna Bannon. Wow, I still messed that up. That's unbelievable. Mad Lab, I couldn't have gotten an easier toss, and I still whiffed. But what do you think with these women fighters here?
I'm not. Listen, when you look at Brana Brazil, everybody's looking at her loss to Gomes, and they're saying, well, now we know who Gomes is. We really don't know who Gomes is. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, she lost. But then when you look at Shauna Bannon, I don't know where people think that this girl is good. Like, I've watched film on her, and I think it's a lot of the traction is coming with the whole Ireland side and the Conor McGregor pushing her and stuff like that. Like, I've watched film on this girl. I don't see anything that's impressive about this girl, besides that she's marketable. On the flip side, Brana Brazil's not that good either. So I got to be honest with you, from a DraftKings perspective, I can care less about this fight. I think it could be like a sloppy, fun fight that everyone's laughing at, like, almost like what Chandler did last week running across the cage. You know what I mean? So it's like there's not a big skill set from Bannon's side. I mean, I lean Brana Brazil a little. Yo, dude, how fucking hysterical was that, dude?
I wanted to ask you about that. What's your take on that? I mean, I've never seen that.
I heard it, though. I said, I don't know why people actually thought Chandler was good.
I sent Mad Lab the picture of her just running, just absolutely darting away. It's the best picture ever.
It was like Norma Dumont was like the lock of the night, dude. Like, there's no way that she was beating Norma Dumont. Like, but with that running shit was fucking hysterical.
Hilarious, man.
I mean, you don't see that like ever. Like, when you see that where a girl is just like, we see people circle around, and that's different. You know what I mean? But
she would have hopped out the cage if she could have. She would have hopped out.
For sure. There was a door there. She would have definitely taken it. Dumont, and we said it to Mad Lab on the show. We were like, this is, I think me and you both said this is our most confident pick.
Yeah.
On the
not from a DraftKings perspective.
No, from a winner perspective.
Yeah, dude. I was like, I don't know. So many people were on Chandler, and I was like, dude, she's the Tank Abbott of MMA. Like, she's got no skill set.
Mad Lab, we said it though. When they see a girl, scramble, get lucky, get on top, and then just start pounding another girl until the lights go out, people are gonna love that. You know what I mean? Like, they just remember what they saw, which was she out-scrambled 3 different times, got on top into a position. She was so heavy on top, and then just pummeled the girl. Like, everyone saw that, and they're like, oh, this girl's really good. Instead of actually watching the film, and then you just go into the next fight against someone as technical as Norma Dumont, and she's just absolutely destroying her wherever the fight went. Like, it was so good to watch. But
yeah, so this fight, I don't know, man. I don't have much interest in this fight at all. I mean, this is a fight that I don't really fade fights too much. I'm not going to fade it, but I'm going to definitely just tell you I'm going to have minimal exposure to this because I really don't know what to expect from these two. I don't think Shauna Bannon's very good. I don't think Brana Brazil's very good. I give Brana Brazil the edge to win the fight, but I really don't know what to expect, man. So I'm going to be I'm going to be very minimal exposure to this fight.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is a 15-fight card. I mean, Brazil, I think she's the better fighter. I'm with you. I don't really like Bannon. But Brazil, I mean, she's still striking defense is not that good. She's very hittable. You know what I mean? At points. So I just don't like this from a scoring perspective. And at 8,600 for Brazil, I'm just going to stay away. I'm going to stay away. I hope she wins a decision type ugly match, and we can move on this card. Hopefully no one gets 1,000 takedowns. What was the chick fight? Was that the first one?
It was the
first chick fight. Yeah. And she got 12 takedowns. Absolutely just owned her on the mat. But I was just I faded her, and I'm just watching. I'm just going, yeah, my night's over. First fight in there. So sometimes fading the first fight, Mad Lab, doesn't work out. I will just say.
I know. Trust me. I know. It's happened to me a lot. My subs get mad at me all the time. They're like, let me guess, you're fading the first fight. Because I hate going into the night and just fucking throwing my computer against the wall.
Yep.
I
mean, it happens, though. It's going to happen.
No, it happens. I know. But sometimes I just like to take my chance, so at least I survive another half hour.
Yeah, Drew, what do the numbers say here? I can't imagine these girls are going to be pretty popular.
I think they actually are going to be more popular than you think. I got Brazil at 20% and Bannon at 17.5%. So I think Brazil's going to get some ownership just off of the money line number. I think at 8,600, people are going to try to fit her in. But yeah, I see this as a complete fade. Brazil grades out the worst in the 8K range. And then Bannon is just probably grades out second worst in the 7K range. So yeah, I don't see any reason to really target this fight. This is one of those that stand out where, yeah, Brazil probably wins it, but how is she going to win it? And at 8,600, there's still some ceiling above us as we go up here. So yeah, I'm cool with avoiding this fight. It does not grade out well and still going to get about 37% collective ownership.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Chris Duncan here against Yanel Ash-mous, which I will say, I'm pretty sure he was a dog in his last fight coming in, first fight in the UFC, and he did end up winning a first round KO against Peterson. I do remember it because no one was on him, and I liked him a ton. He's kind of like my type of fighter. He's a shorter guy. He's strong. He's fit. He's perfect JSU style fighter. I like those type of fighters. But Mad Lab, this is a fight that you got 8,400 Duncan. Ash-mous is 7,800 for DFS. Might be a fight to target here.
Yeah, the thing with Ash-mous is that, like, when you look at the fight, he was a major dog against Peterson. Peterson was one of the high 9K range guys on the slate. I remember that, and he upset him. But when people look at that, they're pigeonholing too much on that win. But they got to remember it was Peterson that he beat. You know what I mean? It's not like he beat some big, elite guy. He beat Peterson, big deal, So when you look at Chris Duncan, it's like there's something about this guy I like. And it's not that he's like a good fighter. It's not that he has all this crazy skill set, but he's a fundamentally wireframe fighter that's wound together well as far as he has one speed. You know what I mean? And it's like he doesn't charge the pocket too hard. He doesn't lean back on his heels too much. He kind of pushes forward, and we've seen him face adversity. Let's face it, when he fought Borshev, when he fought Slaviklaus, he was dropped. He came back. He ended up dropped. He's a very tight, fundamentally sound fighter with good power. He's not overly athletic. He doesn't have a ton of speed, but he is a pretty well-rounded fighter, and he is tough, and he showed us that he can face that adversity. So on that side, I like him. On the other side, I like Ash-mous because he's got the power. This guy loads up on everything he throws. He looks to finish you. He looks for, he doesn't look to do damage in numbers. He looks to do damage in singles. So I do like that. So there is upside for him there, but I think his only way for him to really be of a value is if that he does actually finish Chris Duncan. And that's easier said than done, where Chris Duncan can get the finish, but he can also make it in numbers on a decision. He's more of a volume guy than Ash-mous when Ash-mous is looking for the kill shot. So it's kind of a fight where you got to teeter yourself a little bit and you got to see what you're really more confident in. I lean a little bit more towards Duncan just from a DraftKings perspective. I think he's a little bit more safer because he can go to the cards and still kind of cover his value, where I think Ash-mous is kind of like he's got to get that finish or he's not going to cover. So I do lean Duncan slightly, but there's heavy upside on Ash-mous, obviously, because of his knockouts.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Ash-mous. Like you said, it's a big difference when you talk about Peterson. I'm just saying because he was such a big dog and kind of no one knew about him. But this is a different fight. And I do think Duncan, because we know what Ash-mous wants to do. He wants to load up that power shot, like you said. He wants to strike first. But Duncan needs to use the wrestling. He got 5 takedowns in his last fight. I think he goes to it again. And I think that's the way to kind of slow Ash-mous down, keep that power shot, get him down, and just try and control the fight that way, which I do think Duncan can do. He has a solid gas tank. I see this as Duncan winning, and if he wrestles, I think it's more of a decision win, but I still think he could score well at 8,400 if he wrestles and he can get some good takedowns. So for DFS, I like this fight. I think this is a good fight to target here, and we got good pricing on this fight. I will take Duncan though in the decision win. But Drew, what does the number say here?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be the odd one out here and say I'm gonna probably be underweight on this fight. I think it's gonna be a little bit overowned at the pricing and with the inside the distance number. So I have Duncan at 31% owned, and I have Ash-mous at 25% owned. So Yeah, I mean, they still grade out well across the board. The numbers look good, but at the raw ownership, I mean, Duncan's going to be like 10% higher than other fighters in the upper eights, and close to 15% higher than fighters in the low eights. So I think at the price and with the ownership, I'm going to be underweight. I'm not going to just fade the fight, but I'll be underweight the fight. I do think it's a good fight to target, but my numbers show at the ownership for the implied numbers. For inside the distance for both fighters and at the price, it's going to be a little bit overbought. So I'm going to be a little bit under on both fighters.
That's surprising. That's surprising that Duncan's so highly owned. I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah,
I actually did see that in my early projections too. Let me see what I have him. Hold on.
So Sean V said Ash-mous will be heavily owned on DK. He does not think 25%. He thinks it's going to be higher. I assume.
Yeah,
so I
it.
have Duncan at 36 and I have Ash-mous at 27. So you're right.
Above me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's strange to see that this fight's out highly owned.
I think honestly, we're just trying to piece it together and make it make sense. Like 8,400 for, if you look at the drop off below 8,400, like it goes to coin flips immediately. So I think Duncan's like the last safe value, I guess, with upside. So, but yeah, for me, if I'm going to try to use my numbers a little bit, it's definitely showing that it's going to be overbought. It's going to be overowned, and underweight on this fight would be the way to go, especially in a 15-card fight. It's good on paper, but yeah, 30. I mean, what'd you say? 36%?
I have
Duncan.
Duncan at 36 and Ash-mous has 27. But this is, obviously this is going to change. But right
we're
now,
in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark of it.
Yeah, but that's still
low
high.
30s. That's what I'm saying. It is high. I'm just saying we're not the same, but we're pretty close. We'll say low 30s for Duncan and high 20s for Ash-mous, which is very, very high.
Again, though, from a pricing standpoint, this is one of those fights where, they fit in your lineups easily. If they go to these type of pricings for one or two, and you do have 15 fights, but I'm just saying 7,800, 8,400, those fighters, fit well. And then people are going to see that Ash-mous had a first round KO.
Well, let them storm the gates. Let them take this fight because I got some nuggets I'm going to be blasting.
I mean, Parsons is 10% lower owned. I got him, and he's got the same inside the distance number. So we'll get to that fight soon. But like I said, he's just really high owned. This whole fight's really going to be high owned. So take it with what you will, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's differences with some of those fights that we'll get to, but Drew, Parsons, people haven't seen him go out in their first round, knock someone out. Like I'm telling you right now, they see
they
that
think he's gonna. They think he's gonna.
Well, no, I will say he has a chance to, but I'm just saying though, people might have seen or are looking on the scorecard on DK saying first round KO, 101 fantasy points. I'm telling you, people just look at that stuff and they're like, oh, this dude has power. Okay, we're like. Yeah. It's just different.
When I would lay the fucking odds of him and Big T at like minus 110 apiece. I mean, that guy. I mean, really? Did you watch film on Parsons?
No.
I've watched film on Parsons. We'll get to him in a second, but I will say that dude can take some shots.
Yeah, well, that's not fighting though.
No, it's no. I'm just saying. He's tough, is all I'm saying.
No, yeah, he's definitely tough.
I saw him take some shots, and I'm like against a big dude, and I'm like sitting there. This dude's just swinging and just nailing him, and he's just not going down. Parsons is not a great fighter, but I do think he is very, very tough and tough to get out of there. But we'll get to that fight in a sec. We got more fighters that I'll struggle to pronounce here. We got Caitlin Vieira going up 9,100 on DraftKings against Penne Kenyzada, 7,100 on DraftKings. There we go, Mad Lab. Fix it.
Kenyzada.
All right.
So this is really take your pick. It depends what your style is, what you like. Do you like volume or do you like the bully and the power? You know what I mean? So Kenyzada's coming in. She's very underlooked when it comes to her striking. She throws a lot of volume. So if you look at her numbers, like her numbers and volume are very, very good, but she doesn't have any power. So if you're looking for her to get a finish or knock out Caitlin Vieira, it's not going to happen. Where your path is with her, if you're going to draft her, is you got to hope that, okay, she's going to go to the cards and she's going to put on volume clinic on Caitlin Vieira, and she's not going to be able to take her down. She's going to stay on her feet. Her takedown defense is going to hold up. That's what you're hoping for Penne Kenyzada. as far as Caitlin Vieira, what you want is you want her to close that pocket. You want her to burrow herself in the pocket, get a takedown. She's going to have the more damaging strike. So where do you think the judges are going to go? Do you think, because technically I have this fight going to the cards. Do you think that the judges are going to score the volume more, or are they going to score the damage more? Judging criteria is supposed to be damage first. So if you're looking at that, you're leaning towards Caitlin Vieira, but obviously the optics might show something different with Kenyzada. So, it really depends what you like. I lean more towards Caitlin Vieira on this side. However, on the DraftKings side, I don't like her price. I think $9,000 is way too expensive for her. I don't think she's going to get a finish. I think it's going to go to the cards. I think Kenyzada's going to have her spots where she has a couple bright moments. But I don't like the price on DraftKings. I think even if you are picking Caitlin Vieira, I think there's more value on the Kenyzada side.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think for DraftKings, this is a pretty bad fight to target. I mean, Vieira, listen, like you said, with the power, she can, from the clinch, she can trip, get you down to the ground. She's strong. And that 80% takedown defense from Kenyzada will get tested. And I think it's just going to be a tough spot, though, for volume, because Vieira just wants to, plot forward. It's not a volume show with her. And for DraftKings, unless she's finishing you at 9,100 and probably early, too, it's probably not going to score that great from a DFS perspective. So this is a fade fight for me on both sides. It would be a dog or pass fight, I guess, in DFS, where, if you want to take the shot on the dog at 7,100 and she gets the win in a decision win and maybe she scores enough, I just think this is the wrong card for that, because I see dogs winning on this card. This could be a weird – I don't think value is going to be an issue. I think some of these cheap fighters are coming through.
And finishing, most likely
finishing coming through. So a decision win at 7,100 from a chick might still not get you there optimally in the end. So I don't like this fight from a DraftKings perspective at all. Even if you like the dog, I still think it's not a great fight to target. Drew?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about ownership. This will justify a little bit of my process, because Vieira, I have her at 13.5% owned, which you would probably right off the bat think, oh, she's going to be low owned. You're going to think you need to be overweight. No, I got her as over owned at 13.5% at 9,100 for everything I see. So 13% for Vieira, and probably just fade that. I got 18% though for Kenyzada, and that's not looking great either. So, and it makes sense. I mean, she's got a money line number. It's implied to win 41% of the time. $7,100 looks safe. But I think this is a nice fight to fade, and I wouldn't really sweat it. I just don't see how this fight would screw me. The dog could win. And I think there's other dogs that can outscore her. The Vieira could win, even via submission. And I still don't think she's going to score a tremendous amount of points. It would be out and one basically. So I think, I'm with you guys. I think it's a good fight to fade. It's not going to be over-owned, but it's just not a good upside fight.
Yeah, I just want to answer this. Jim, my the projections go up later on. This is a rough draft of my projections. I finalize them later, and then I put them on as late as possible when they're kind of secure and tight. That's why they're not up yet.
Do you have Vieira close to that, Matt Lab?
My projections right now, I have Kenyzada at 21%, and I have Vieira at 12%. So we're on the same, on the same page.
Yeah, well, Vieira 12%, 13%, so it's about the same.
Yeah.
Did we lose JSU? He froze on me.
He froze. Look at this guy. He looks like he's looking at an ice cream cone on the screen. Come on, JSU, get with the program.
He's looking at something on the other screen. It must have got a virus. I'll keep it moving. I'll host in the interim as JSU goes down and figures out how to unplug his Wi-Fi and plug it back in. He picked a good fight to butcher, though. We got Mahmoud Muradov and Brian Barbarena. Let's see. I'll let you go ahead and talk about the fight, and I'll pull it up, and we'll talk about numbers.
All right. Yeah, so this fight is, man, I don't like talking. Look at what happens going on here. I got a little split screen. We got double box action going.
I'll fix it. Oh, man, they're testing me. There we go.
Taking up all the real estate. So we got this is tough for me. Some of these guys I know personally, you know what I mean? And Barbarena is a guy that I know personally, but at the end of the day, you got to, speak truth. And it just stylistically, this is a tough matchup for him. You know, this is a guy who he lives and breathes with his durability. And as you get older, your durability kind of starts, you know, bending. It bends and bends. Eventually it ends up breaking, you know, and this is a winnable fight for him in certain aspects, but it's also a very, very tough stylistic matchup for him in other aspects as well. So, moving weight divisions and trying to find usually these guys, what happens is, if perfect example is Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans came into the UFC. This guy was winning at a very lightweight as heavyweight. Then all of a sudden he ends up trying to find his home again because he started losing. He goes to light heavyweight. He goes to middleweight. He goes to all these different weights to try to, and that's an uncomfortable feeling. That shows me there's a little bit of uncomfortability. You know, Barbarena is tough. Barbarena is going to hang in as long as he can. Barbarena is the type of guy that if this does go to the third round, people who put Muradov in parlays and shit like that, they better get on the edge of their couches because they might be in for a ride in the third round with Barbarena. He's the type of guy that will pull shit out of his hat. From a DraftKings perspective, I think he's worth, I don't think he's worth fading. Like, I'm definitely not going to fade Barbarena, but I do see value in Muradov at 9,500. I do see a situation where he can actually just literally put it on Barbarena in spots and finish him. He's not only a striker. He does have decent wrestling. He does have decent, grappling on the ground. He just hasn't showed it that much. And Barbarena's deficiency really is the guy doesn't have great takedown defense. So I see a multitude of paths for Muradov to win this fight, from knockout to just, controlling the pace on the ground. So I don't mind that $9,500 price tag. I do project him to be pretty popular, probably top 3 owned. But I'm not going to fade Barbarena, fully, but it is a tough scene for him in this fight.
You guys got me.
What happened? What'd you fucking do? You were shopping?
Dude, I don't know if you guys know, we have like thunder and lightning here right now. My whole house just flickered and all my power went out for like literally 30 seconds. Just every single light just flickered and my whole power went out. So hopefully it'll be okay. It is thundering and lightning out here where I am, but should be back now. You guys got me, right?
Yeah,
I got you. I thought you were fucking looking at like ice cream or something on it. It looked like you were like.
No, I was not looking at ice cream. Did you guys hit the Barbarena fight?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about now. Yeah. So we just MadLab just broke it down.
If
you want to get our thoughts, and we can talk about numbers. Yeah, MadLab broke it down really well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what MadLab said because I couldn't listen. I was turning my internet back on or power back on, but I think this is gonna be a fun fight. I think this is could be a banger fight. And the fact that Barbarena, who, listen, he's not like as fast as Muradov. He's not like Muradov wants to like throw. Sometimes he overthrows too, is his problem. And Barbarena's, he's just going to touch you. Barbarena's just going to keep touching you. He's going to almost annoy you and try and bait you into fighting his fight. It's kind of what he did with Robbie Lawler, where Robbie Lawler was hitting him with big shots. He was doing a ton of damage. And then what happened as the fight went on? First round, second round, Barbarena just kept doing his little volume, not big power shots. And eventually he got to Robbie Lawler, started hitting him with little elbows. It wouldn't stun me if Barbarena did the same thing here, baited Muradov into that type of fight where Muradov thinks he's faster, which he will be, and he has the power, which I do think he will have the power. But you're gonna think you hurt Barbarena and come in, and when you come in, he's gonna get you. He's gonna throw. He's tough. I think this is a tougher fight, MadLab, than people are looking at, and I do think someone gets finished here too. That's the other thing. I do think there's a finish. So for DFS, I'm in on this fight. I like this fight here, and I'm gonna have both sides of this fight. I give Barbarena a shot here. I think Muradov wants to be on his feet, right, MadLab? He wants to throw.
I mean, that's the thing. The public perception of him is that he wants to throw, but he does know how to grapple. He does have a grappling game.
We've seen him grapple.
And we know that his biggest deficiency, and like I said, and I'm not talking shit about him because I said before I know him personally, but Barbarena has a takedown defense deficiency.
And he should watch his other fights and be like, I need to get this to the ground.
Right. So you don't know what he's going to do. Like, you don't know. But if he starts getting lost in translation, he feels like he's losing traction on his feet. He does have that in his back pocket.
Well, yeah, I think he needs to use it, though, sooner. I think he needs to throw Barbarena off immediately with some, not letting him stand up and do his game, get him to the ground or try and get him to the ground early. And then from there, use your power and kind of just throw him off a little bit instead of getting baited into what Barbarena wants to do, which is clearly stand and bang. He will trade in the pocket and, you'll think you'll have him and he'll come right back. So, yeah, it should be an interesting fight, though. So you're on the Muradov side?
Yeah, just like I said, I just think it's a bet. I said earlier, like if you remember Rashad Evans, like when these guys start jumping weight classes to try to find their home, it's never really a good sign. You know what I mean? And, so I just feel like he's taking shots in the dark here. And I think he took this fight. And listen, you take a fight, the UFC offers you a fight there, but stylistically, I just don't think it's a good matchup for him. You know what I mean? Stylistically, I just don't think it's a good matchup for him. I think that, but I did say if it gets into the third round, Muradov backers are going to be sitting on the edge of their couch saying, all right, now they're going to be shitting in their pants because this is the type of fight once it gets to that point where he pulls shit out of his hat and Barbarena wins. Yep. But I just
and we did see in that second round with Mearshad, Muradov did get a little tired. He did get a little tired from the first round of throwing. Mad Lab, when he throws, those are big, powerful shots that take a lot out of you, honestly. And that's what I mean by, like, sometimes he'll just he needs to actually watch he needs to, like, touch people, touch. Because he's got the speed to do it, but he wants to, like, hit you with the haymaker. And I think that's a bad thing for him sometimes. He loses energy. It drains him a little faster. I think it happened in that Mearshad fight.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting fight, but it's the weathering the storm. He's got to weather the storm. Muradov can't really load up on his shots. He's got to conserve himself a little bit and understand, like, if I don't finish this guy, I need energy for round 3 to get through him. But I just think the size difference, the strength difference, the power difference, like there is a big discrepancy you're going to see in there.
The speed, like his hands are fast. Like he is fast. So, all right, Drew, what are the numbers here?
Yeah, Muradov, I got at 28.5% and Barbarena at 12.5%. So I think it's pretty fairly owned for the underdog. So I think I'll be with you, JSU. I'll have a little bit of Barbarena. I think he is live. Just have a sprinkle, but Muradov looks safe to win. I think it really boils down to lineup construction for him. If you can get up to Aspinall with him, it's kind of tough. So you might just have to play Muradov with someone else and fade Aspinall, which is scary, which we'll talk about here shortly. But yeah, I think Muradov at, we'll call him 30% owned is a fair price. It's just a matter of, will it fit your lineup construction?
Yeah. I mean, because 9,500, you want that finish.
You have to,
for sure.
Yeah.
You definitely want it. So, all right, let's keep it moving here. We got Mick Parkin against Jamal Pogues here. Jamal Pogues coming off a win against Parisian, a decision win, but still, solid win here. He had 5 takedowns in that fight. Mad Lab, what are you seeing here with Mick Parkin, which I'm sure
this is the guy, bro. I messed it up. It wasn't Parsons. It was Parkin I was thinking of. That I said I would have laid a line -110 -1.
Good. I felt bad for a while.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like,
my lightning just hit.
I'm like, Parsons at least has like a little power. Mick Parkin like gets tired after 30 seconds of fighting.
So I was like, Vegas looks like dumbasses over here. I'm looking at numbers that are looking pretty good.
There was this guy Parkin, but this is one of those fights, bro, where you look at it and you're like. It's like a tug of war because both guys aren't good, but they're also heavyweights that there's a high upside for a finish. So it's like, what do? Do you go that they're not good, or do you say who gives a shit if it's a slobber knocker and there could be a knockout? So it's like you're kind of in a tough spot here with Jamal Pogues. This guy, he's really not super athletic. He does do some nice things. I've seen him do some nice things in there, but he also has a lot of holes in his game. But as far as Mick Parkin, like I see nothing on film that I like about this guy. Like if you watch everything that he does, even the positional work that he does on the ground, like it's almost like he doesn't even realize where he is. He's like kind of floating on top of you. He just throws shit to throw shit. And I don't know. It's like this is a fight where both guys have certain paths to win, but I think it's more of an uphill battle for Parkin. I don't know, man. It's heavyweights. It's sloppy heavyweights. Right time, right place for whoever ends up winning this fight. I'm just not really high on this fight at all. Like, I know it's the heavyweights, and I know there is upside for a finish, but kind of flip your coin here, man, because as far as making a read on this, I don't think you can make like a full-blown read and saying, well, I think Pogues is going to win or I think Parkin is going to win. I think they're both like equally bad.
One thing I will say about Pogues is I've at least seen him go 3 rounds. Mick Parkin, I've watched his fights. Like, he's going to struggle, I think, if this gets out of the first round, honestly. I don't think his cardio is going to hold up. Not that I've seen a ton of him, but just from what I have seen of him, he is hittable, too. He can definitely – I mean, he's a big dude. He can take a shot, but he's hittable. And I think Jamal Pogues, at least the fact that he showed me he can go 3 rounds, I just give him the edge from a cardio standpoint and withstand it. I don't think Mick Parkin's very good either. So I'll take Pogues here. And I think it finishes, honestly, because I just don't think Mick Parkin can handle going through 3 rounds. I don't know about you, Mad Lab, but I just don't see it here with him. So that's my take on the fight. Drew, what do the numbers say?
Yeah, I got Pogues at 23% and Parkin at 18%. So to be honest, at 8,900 for Pogues, I think I'm going to be out. He grades out pretty poorly at the ownership and his numbers. And I'll probably have some Parkin, despite everyone hating on Parkin and looks like he's a little overweight and slow and can't get out of the first round. But he's only going to be 18%. Pretty live. I mean, like his inside the distance number, if it is in round 1, sounds good. So I'm going to have a little bit of $7,300 Parkin at 18% owned. I'll probably just be around 20%, nothing crazy.
And this is a fight, I think, for DraftKings. This is a fight, even though I don't like Parkin, I agree that Pogues is probably a bad DraftKings play. Even though I think he's going to win, Mick Parkin's probably better just from a value standpoint. I just don't think he wins. But if we're talking DFS, he's probably the better play at the price tag of $7,300 as opposed to paying $8,900 for Pogues. So I agree with.
So you don't just need the win, like you talked about earlier. There's upside all across this golf card, all across this card, and Pogues doesn't seem like he would have the upside to finish in round 1 or 2 and have the
again the though. There's the difference between DFS and picking a side and betting it. You know absolutely. What I mean? And people need to know that there's an absolute difference between the two. You can be higher on a dog because he's 6,900, and you think if he opens wins, up the card, he's optimal, right? But or you know what I mean. But you could say in your head reasonably, I think Muradov's going to win. The most likelihood is that Muradov wins, but you could still have some Barbarena because however much percent, even if it's small, that Brian Barbarena does find a knockout or something like that, he's going to be optimal at that price tag.
And your builds with that are going to have so much ceiling. I mean, he opens up everything. So, it's very important to consider that.
All right, let's go to the next fight here. We got Jose Alvarez versus Mark Diakiese. Mad Lab, back to you here. Diakiese done a lot of wrestling in his recent fights, and then you get the Michael Johnson fight where I don't know about you, Mad Lab, but that was frustrating to watch. just for me, watching him just do his little smiling and the little antics he does in the cage. I don't really love any of that. He's trying to show like he's not affected or whatever, but Michael Johnson just beat him up in the second and third round. Like he clearly won that fight. And I thought it was a really bad loss for Mark.
Yeah, it was bad. You think you said it perfectly, actually. Diakiese is a guy who I think he understands how good of an athlete he is. And I think he understands how well-rounded he is, that he thinks he can get into these pissing competitions with you at your game. And sometimes it works for him. Sometimes it doesn't. For instance, when he fought Fiziev back a while ago, he actually fought Fiziev very well. If you really watch that fight, like he actually did, he fought him very well. He ended up losing the fight, but he was very, very competitive. So it's like you get two Mark Diakieses. You get the Mark Diakiese, who is the guy who we thought he was going to be, and then you get the Mark Diakiese against Michael Johnson, where it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like the judges aren't looking at you laughing and doing this and saying, oh, well, that didn't affect them. Because usually when you do make those faces, it means it affected you. Those shots did affect you. But you also got to remember is Michael Johnson's stand-up is much sharper, much faster, and much cleaner than Alvarez. You know what I mean? Alvarez is an opportunistic grappler. This is a guy who's very big for the division. He does have power in his hand. He does have pop, but he is opportunistic. So you got to wonder, is Diakiese going to take these shots in the wrestling and lead with his head and get, sucked up into a guillotine or something? That's the concern for me. However, to me, this DraftKings pricing is completely off. It's completely off. I think Diakiese is super, super live here. I do think he has the skill, the athletic ability, and the wrestling ability. Alvarez is very accepting of takedowns. So if Diakiese does come with that path and he doesn't shoot down the center line, he kind of chooses angles to shoot to keep his neck safe and to keep certain limbs safe, I think he can gain some top control and he can, win some time and possibly even win some rounds here. I think the upside for Alvarez is he's got to finish the fight. I think Alvarez, if you're on the Alvarez side, you're hoping that he does get snatched up in a guillotine or something like that. Where Diakiese really, his path to victory here would be just to kind of sting him at range, utilize the real estate of the cage, utilize the leg kicks, try to slow him down, use the wrestling, change levels, and ride this to a decision. Even if he does go to a decision, that 7,200 is covering. It's going to cover. So I think I like the Diakiese side more than the Alvarez side because I do think Diakiese is very, very live. I think Alvarez, his price isn't terrible because if he does win, he's going to snatch something up in the first or second round. But I think if this goes into the third round, you're looking at a Diakiese decision win, especially where it is. You know what I mean? So I like the Diakiese side more. I think the price is a little bit off.
Yeah, there's a reason, though, Alvarez is accepting sometimes of takedowns. He has a lot of submission wins, and he's very comfortable. He's going to throw things up. He's not going to make it easy for you, Mad Lab. I mean, we watched the Surabian fight where Arman he stayed safe. He knew where to go, and then he overwhelmed Alvarez, but that's different. Like you throw that fight out because Arman he's the real deal. You know what I mean? But in this fight, I think Diakiese, it's going to be a mistake for him to wrestle. And the fact that he's done a lot of wrestling, and then we saw in his last fight after doing a lot of wrestling, him struggle when he's not wrestling, tells me he might struggle here because Alvarez has the reach advantage. He's tall. I think it's going to be tough for him to sting at range, which he wants to do when he's on his feet. And I think Alvarez is actually going to win some of those exchanges because of that. And Alvarez is dangerous. He's going to throw elbows when he gets in tight. He's going to throw knees. He's a little bit of a wild card on the feet. And I think that's going to pose a problem for someone like Diakiese, who he's so worked up with the antics and the smiling. I don't know about that because I think Alvarez is a solid fighter. And I don't think he's going to go in there and try and crush you, especially after that. Him just getting beaten to a pulp by Surabian a year ago, or whenever it was, where he was bleeding everywhere. I mean, I can't remember so much blood from one of those cuts where he's just drenched in blood, Mad Lab. Think about that, where and they're not stopping the fight. Like, I think that fight should have been stopped a minute and a half sooner, but that ref just let it go because he was still trying to fight. This dude is a warrior. He's tough. I think it's going to pose big problems for Diakiese. I like the Alvarez side a lot. But again, if you think he's going to wrestle for DFS, it's not a bad dog to put some money on and hope he goes back to that and has success with it. I just think it's a mistake for him to wrestle someone like Alvarez. I think it's dangerous. But Drew, what do you see here with this fight? I assume people are going to like this fight.
Not as much as you think. I got Alvarez at 23% at 9K, so a little bit lower than some of the other fighters, or at least close to the same as the other fighters, even though his numbers look really good. Diakiese, God, I butchered that, but we're gonna ride with it. 14% owned for Marco. Diakiese.
I like that. There you go. That's what you do.
That's a good name for him because he is cocky.
He is.
He is cocky. I like that. Diakiese. There you go. Yeah. Make up a nickname, Drew. Come on.
Yeah, we'll go with Diakiese.
What do you have in that? What do you have his projections at? His
14% for Diakiese. Yeah, so I think Diakiese's fine. he's still okay as a dog. I think overall this fight's good to target. I really lean Alvarez at 23% for him. I really like plugging in him for a lot of builds. He's my highest rated fighter outside of Aspinall. So I do like Alvarez, but I do like just this fight in general. So I think Diakiese will be an okay dog to play. I hate mispronouncing his name, but it's all I got. So Diakiese.
I'm going to tell you right now, if he wins this fight, I'm going to send you on Twitter both gifts of like an ice cream cone shitting.
So, yeah, I don't know. I really do like Alvarez. He grades out so well, and he doesn't look like he's going to be over-owned. I got him as a leverage spot across every round. Like, if he wins in round 1 or round 2, it's a leverage spot over the other fighters.
It's dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous. Like I said, it's the better athlete. The overall better athlete is Diakiese, but you don't know what you're going to get from him. He's very Jekyll and Hyde, dude. So, Alvarez, at least you know what you're getting from him. You know where his paths are. You know he's going for a finish. Where Diakiese is going to look to stay on the outside. He's going to look to chip at you with his legs because the legs are longer than arms. He's going to try to take away that reach in that way. So it's going to be a good fight, though. It's definitely a fight I'm going to target. That'll tell you.
Yeah, funny how like Alvarez was getting – people were like loving him before that Surabian fight. Like when he beat Moises, like people were loving him after that first round finish. And then he gets to the Surabian fight. He gets destroyed, obviously. And then everyone's kind of like, it feels like everyone's just like kind of off of him after losing to a guy that he should have like Surabian is better. We know he is now, but I feel like people are almost like looking at that fight badly because he lost to one of the best fighters in the entire friggin' UFC. Like Arman Tsarukyan is a real deal. And I don't know. Do you just not like him as a fighter, Mad Lab?
No. I do like him. I just, you know what it is with me. Like I followed Diakiese for a long time, and I know like the dude just never lived up to the bill. Like he was supposed to be a lot better than he is, and he does show shades of it. So if he comes in and shows shades of what he was supposed to be, he's live against a lot of people. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying from a live perspective at his price tag, it's he has it in him. It's not like, holy shit, dude, what just happened? Like, if he wins this fight, you're not going to be uber shocked because he does have those performances. So at his price tag, you know what I mean? I'm going to be definitely giving him some love.
It just seems like Alvarez is more skilled. I guess he's more well-rounded to get out of positions, I guess. And still
he's definitely the more refined grappler, but Diakiese is the more refined athlete and striker.
Right, yeah. So there's upside
from an athlete. It's definitely Diakiese or whatever we're calling him. Yeah. It's definitely him. I mean, he's doing all those. It just drives me nuts. Like that third round when he's doing those like little like cartwheel kicks and doing those little antics. That doesn't sit well. You're losing the fight in the third round, and you're doing shit like that. That's a loser's mentality, in my opinion, right there. That's just my opinion. Yeah. But he's trying to like show off when he's clearly losing the fight. I don't like that. But
it's like a psychological thing. They do that in other sports. It's like a thing like, oh, I wasn't really trying, that's why I lost. It's not a big deal. Instead of just losing and just moving forward.
And you smile.
It's stupid.
You're trying to show that you're not affected, but that's saying to everyone you are affected by it.
It's weak. It's weak. 100%. It's weak.
I understand sometimes when they do it, like sometimes if it's like in the second round, these guys will do it because they know their blueprint's not working. So they're trying to bait you into their fight. So by showboating and stuff, they're trying to get under your skin. They're trying to frustrate you and they're trying to pull you in to their fight. But when it's in the third fucking round and you're down 2-0 and you're doing that,
yeah, there's a different way to do it. Like there's a tactic to it.
I forget what fight I was watching where the fighter's literally yelling at the guy like, "Come fucking on!" and he's bleeding everywhere because he wants to bait him into like a firefight, because that guy knows he's losing, so he's trying to get him to essentially throw everything out, piss him off, and fight the fight he wants to give him a shot. But yeah, it happens. We'll move on though here to the fight that Drew really wanted to talk about. Apparently, we got Johnny Parsons here.
I got shit on about it, man.
No, dude, no, it's the wrong guy.
Against Johnny Parsons and Danny Roberts, the two easiest names I will say that are fighting each other here on the card. 8,200 for Parsons on DraftKings and Roberts 8K. Another fight that I think, just from a DraftKings perspective, this is going to be a good fight to target because of those price tags. And Mad Lab, I don't know about you, but Danny Roberts to me at 8K looks pretty good, I will just say.
Yeah, this is I think we can all agree to this, even though Drew has a hard-on for Parsons, I think, right? But I think we can all agree that Roberts is a far way better fighter. He's just a better fighter. He's more refined, more polished, more experienced. We could say that. Parsons to me is really his only path here is he's got a nasty high kick. He's got good power. He loads up on his shots. But you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of like a D-level John Lineker. Like, he's got that like Napoleon complex type style where he just wants to run in. He wants to catch you with his hands. And that can work against somebody like Roberts because Roberts' chin is kind of dusted at this point. So, that's the dangerous spot. You can't look at, a lot of times I always say you always go after the boxer. You never go after the puncher. More times than not, the boxer always wins. But in a situation like this, it's tough because Roberts really, that chin is very, very fragile. So if he fights clean in this fight, if Roberts can fight clean and keep his chin in space and keep it off the center line, there's no reason why Roberts can't run away with this fight clearly and make Parsons look like he doesn't even belong in there. But it's that kill switch that Parsons does possess, that if he does catch Roberts with it, I could see him going on stinky legs and knocking him out. So I'm definitely targeting this fight because both of these guys have upside for high volatility in scoring. I mean, if Roberts wins, it means he kept his chin clean and he ran a circle around Parsons. And if Parsons wins, he ends up KOing Roberts. So what I do in this spot is when it's like 81, 82, 8,000, I always I always pull in the higher guy first to make sure I save that salary cap. And I know I could fit Roberts in, and I kind of take a couple of my best lineups and I just kind of interchange them. So you're not disturbing the piece. Going into the fight, you're going to lose a couple of your lineups, but you also know that a couple of them are going to get through. So I do like this fight to target, and I think there's upside on both guys.
Yeah, this is not, from a DFS perspective, this is not like the Prado fight from last week, in my opinion. This is not like the fight where I say, like, you lock this fight in and you want the winner of this fight because they're going to throw and there's going to be a finish early. I don't think that's this type of fight. I do think, though, Parsons' path, like you said, is he throws heavy, big shots, loads up, has that kick like you talked about. He can get a KO. That's his path. And Roberts, probably the more technical fighter if he stays away from those big shots. That's probably his path. He can, win, I think, wherever the fight goes from there. So the question is, who has the highest upside on DraftKings? Well, even though I think Roberts wins this fight, I think Parsons might have the highest upside on DraftKings from a early KO perspective. So that's where, again, betting and DFS, are kind of different. But I think Roberts does win this fight. For DraftKings, though, I'll probably be, if anything, a little higher on Parsons. But I'm kind of lower on this fight, actually, for an 8K 8,200 fight. Normally, when we see these on the DraftKings card, normally I'm heavily invested in those type of fights because they're really close and, perfect kind of like lineup fillers to get in with studs and stuff. You get in that 8K person in there. But I don't know. This is a fight that I'm just a little lower on. Maybe I'm wrong here, but Drew, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I'll be honest. This is had a position the last couple months of these type of fights being a trap to a degree. So just to paint a picture, Parsons is the underdog, but he's got a very strong inside the distance number, about 1.5x the Danny Roberts inside the distance number. So with that being said, I have the ownership at 21% for Parsons and 17% for Roberts. They both grade out about equally. I think both are in play. Neither one is a really strong leverage spot. I think Parsons is a better round one leverage spot, obviously just off the KO. He's got about a 25% chance of winning via KO in round one. So like I said, I want to target this fight. I'm going to have a good share of it. But we've seen this a few times, just keeping an eye on it. It's really weird where the dog has a better inside the distance number, and then the money line number with being Danny Roberts ends up winning via decision, and it's not really like a banger of a fight. So I do think Parsons has the upside. I'll lean Parsons here. But, I'm going to be probably 20% between the two fighters. I really want to be heavy on Parsons, but I think this is one of those that it might just kind of bleed on into round 3 and not do enough for us.
Well, it's a window fight, like I said with McKinney last week. McKinney had a window. If he didn't get it done,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
If he didn't get it done in 3 minutes, and he was done, he was dead to rights. So the same thing with this guy. This guy is, Danny Roberts has a lot of tricks in his pocket. He can go 15 minutes and make a lot of adjustments where Parsons can't. Parsons got one way of fighting, and that's it. And if you can make the read on him before the chin gets caught, you're going to coast. You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing with this fight. By far and away, Roberts is the better fighter. But I think baked into that inside the distance line that you're talking about, I think his chin is baked into it more than Parsons is baked into it. history of his chin, you know. So it's going to be an interesting fight, but I do think it's a fight that I'm going to target.
Yeah, you got to target it. It's not a fade fight, but it's just one of those. It's interesting because you want to target the inside the distance number, but it's funny when they had the money line number. That guy, the last few months, it seems like he's gone off to win the indecision and got nothing to show for it. So I'll keep fighting. I'll go Parsons as my official pick via KO because I need the upside. Via KO round 2. I'll say.
I still can't believe so many people were on McKinney.
So many.
Bro, I love it, bro. Like this, sometimes you know what it is though. This is a trend, bro. I call it the public perception, the train. It's like one person goes out on Twitter or whatever outlet and says, yeah, you know, this guy's got. Then the other person says it. Then the other person says it. Then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, 4 people can't be wrong. Then they say it. Then it's the whole Chandler and McKinney thing. Well, McKinney had a better shot, obviously, winning that fight. But the perfect example is Chandler. Like, how the hell were so many people on Chandler? It was public perception because there's no way you could have did film and really said to yourself, yeah, Chandler's going to win this fight. There's no way. So
it's all numbers. It's all numbers. You look at a $7,500 fighter. He has a 40% chance to finish in round 1 or inside the distance. They're like, jam him in. Yeah, I'll take a chance. And that's why I said it tends to be a trap more times than not because the money line number is probably more reflective of the fighter. And then the inside the distance is like a safety net for Vegas to say, you know, shit, we could be wrong in round 1, but we're pretty right on the fighter.
Yeah.
And that's all I meant by, you know, and you're right. There's a window. There's a window for Parsons to win early. Outside of that window, it's going to be a Roberts win, probably via decision. So yeah, I think have some exposure, but don't go crazy, especially at 8,200 to 8,000. I'm sure you can run some optimal builds and get trapped into having this fight in every build.
Yeah, and you got a decent amount of kind of like those mid-level fighters right there in that kind of price range around it. I think you got a decent amount of fighters, so it's not a fight you need to go after if you don't, especially if you don't like Parsons. You know what I mean? Because it's probably not as optimal if Parsons isn't getting the KO early. All right, let's go to next fight: Daniel Marcos versus Davy Grant. For some reason, I do kind of like Davy Grant. Just I like the way you
just like the name.
I do. I love the name. I do. Honestly, I just love the name Davy. And
sounds like a peanut butter company, Davy Grant Peanut Butter.
I mean, it's just it works with honey. A lot of things.
Davy Grant honey,
it's perfect.
Davy, you have some Davy Grant honey with your tea.
All right. Well, I think that Daniel Marcos probably gets this fight done here. But Mad Lab, tell us what you think of this fight.
It's interesting. Davy Grant was a grappler, like to start his career. Like he had very good. He has good grappling. He's got good. I think Drew just froze. Oh no! Wow, that was. Bro, did you see that magic trick? Did everybody just see that magic trick, bro? He froze when he was drinking, and then all of a sudden the fucking cup was gone.
I was gonna say, I hope it's not me because it is shitting rain outside my house right now. It is thundering and lightning. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it's absolutely insane out here right now. If anyone
no more excuses for mispronouncing names. We don't buy into this lightning deal.
Yeah,
well, that's not an excuse because I'm going to mispronounce names whether it's lightning out or it's sunny out. It doesn't really matter.
He's got perfect connection for fucking Davy Grant and Marcos.
Yeah. Well, geez, give me another softball right there. I mean, come on.
Two more fights, he's going to freeze. I guarantee it. Ferraz is Ziam. He's out.
So Grant started as a grappler, man, you know, and he transcended, you know, he got that taste of that knockout. And I talk about it all the time. Like for the guys who are into baseball, like if you hit a home run and you hit the ball on the meat of the bat, you don't even feel it in your hands. There's no rattling of the bat. It goes. That's the same feeling you get with a knockout. I don't know if any of you guys ever boxed before or sparred but when you get that one clean shot, it just feels like you didn't even put anything into it. There was like
Mad Lab, you're talking to me, man. That's golf every day.
Okay, so there you go.
Pure.
Right, you know, as soon as you hit that, it's
you don't even feel it. It just goes right through it.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with the knockout. When you throw a good jab and you connect with something nice, it doesn't like it just feels so fluid and good. So he got addicted to that, and a lot of fighters do, but a lot of fighters it doesn't work for. It doesn't translate correctly. You know, for Grant, it actually did. Like for Grant does have good power. He's got good pop in his shot. He is super durable. That does help him a lot. He is getting a little bit older in age, and he's fighting a kid, Marcos, who's younger. He's a little more hungry. He's going to throw a little bit more volume. So it's really, what do you like? Do you like the overall game of Grant, the veteran savvy of Grant, that he can take it down if he wants it there, that he is durable, that it's going to take a lot to get him out of there, but he's not going to be able to keep up with the volume with a young kid like Marcos? It really depends what you like here. I do think Grant is live. I know Christine Showdown, that's her dog pick of the week. I do think he's live. It's a fight that I'm going to target, but I don't know how much I'm going to target it. I could see this fight ultimately taking place on the feet, being like a little back and forth chess match. Both of these guys getting their spots here and there. Maybe if Grant is losing traction on the ground, he goes to secure a takedown. But I don't know how much I'm gonna buy into this fight. But from a DraftKings perspective, I would say Grant probably holds a little bit more value than Marcos for the finishing upside.
Yeah, I definitely think David Grant is live for sure. I just think Marcos in the end is going to be the better fighter in this spot. And like you said, does he grapple here? He's been more of a striker. Why would he not stay more of a striker? It's what he's been doing. I'm just going to assume that. And I think, Marcos, I think he's talented, man. I think he's got good stuff. I think he wins a decision here from a DFS side. I don't know how well that scores. I mean, he could put up decent volume, I guess, at 8,500. But yeah, I mean, I'll probably have some Marcos for sure. Davey Grant, maybe I'll have a little of, just because I love our girl Christine. But that's it for me on this fight. I'm not this isn't a fight I'm going 50-50 on or super overweight. I think I'll be at the field with Marcos and, probably a little under on Davey if I 150 or something like that. Drew, what do you got?
Yeah, this will probably be dog or pass for me. I got Davey Grant at 16% and Marcos at 25.5%. So yeah, I see Davey Grant as a little bit better leverage spot at 7,700. Still has decent finish upside, even relative to Marcos. So I'll probably just go with Grant and for the most part fade Marcos and hope it goes to a decision if it's a Marcos win, and try to get to the upside off of a Grant finish, whether it's round 1 or round 2 or even round 3 at 7,700.
All right, there we go. Let's go to the next fight. You ready for this one? Laurent Murphy versus Josh Cooley-Bell. I've been waiting all day to say that name. I think that's another good name. But this is a fight that's interesting to me because I, for one, thought Laurent Murphy easily could have lost that Santos fight. They gave it to him in a decision. But for me personally, I thought Santos won that fight. And I know it was very close or whatever. They gave it to Murphy. But it was very close to me, Mad Lab. And I think this is definitely a tough test too with Cooley-Bell. What do you think here? I'd say Cooley-Bell's live. Yeah,
he's live. He's the Cooley-Bell brings a very tough. This is a kid who still doesn't get credit. And I don't think he's ever going to get. Is that rain by you that I hear right now?
So I'm on mute, so it wasn't me, but it is shitting rain.
Oh, because I hear like rain or something. So
I pissed my pants.
Did you?
No, I'm just kidding.
I've done that before. So when you look at Cooley-Bell, this is a guy who doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's a tough kid, But when you look at Murphy on the flip side, this is a guy who is really good that hasn't shown it yet. When you look at the Gabriel Santos fight, you also got to remember, these guys, when they sign a fight to fight somebody, they're kind of blueprinting and wireframing their entire camp around that person. So when that person drops off and you get a new guy with only a week's notice, everything kind of changes. You know what I mean? And look what happened when Alexander Hernandez fought Dariush. He ended up catching him cold. There are situations where some of these guys come in and it's just a dangerous, dangerous thing to take these guys on 1 week notice. Even though you had a full camp, you blueprinted and wireframed your whole camp to this guy that you were supposed to fight. And that's what happened to Laurent Murphy here. This guy is good. I just feel like I don't know when we're going to see. He's going to end up having his fight where he wins, and the arrival of Laurent Murphy is here because I do think he is a talented fighter. I do think he has a deficit on the ground. I think he wants to keep things. He's a good athlete. He wants to keep things standing. Cooley-Bell, on the other hand, he's just tough. He's going to continue to move forward. He's going to take shots. He's going to deliver shots. He's kind of, well-rounded anywhere it goes. So it's really the real athletic, more mature-minded guy against someone like Cooley-Bell who's going to get into the foxhole with you and throw. What do you like? I think this fight will probably go to the cards. That's the only reason why I'm not crazy on the 8,800 with Murphy. But by all rhymes and reasons, Murphy should win this fight. Like, Murphy really, really should win this fight. But I just don't know how close he's going to get to that 8,800 price tag, because Cooley-Bell is a tough out. He's not going to go quality tonight for anybody. And the $7,400 price tag becomes intriguing at that point.
Yeah, and I think one of the things maybe working against Cooley-Bell, Murphy struggled with guys that take him down because he's not great at defending those takedowns. We saw Santos just single, double, just get him down, grind him up against cage. That was what was working for Santos, actually. That was one of the differences between him. But Murphy, got him on the feet a little bit more. Cooley-Bell, he doesn't really do that as much, Bad Lab. So I think that's the one thing you could say where maybe that plays more into Murphy's style, which is benefit Murphy. And I agree with you. It's probably a fight Murphy should win. But for DFS, this fight's going to be dog or pass, because I do think it goes to the cards. And at least Cooley-Bell at 7,400 in a decision win, I think could put up enough points, possibly. Whereas I don't think Murphy in a decision win puts up enough to be optimal here. So I'm going to go dog or pass for DFS. And it probably ends in a Earl Murphy decision. But I will say I do think this fight is close. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing. I'm going to go dog or pass. Same with this fight as the last one. I got Cooley-Bell at 16%, and I also have Murphy at 16%. So, again, if this goes to the cards, which it likely will, the favorite being Lerone Murphy won't do it for me. But Cooley-Bell, if he can win via decision, and I'll just be optimistic and say he wins via decision, I'll take it. So still has a decent chance. It's like a 56-43 split between the two. So yeah, Cooley-Bell will be my play for DK, and I'll fade Murphy. Murphy probably wins via decision though in real life.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to Firas Ziam versus Jai Herbert. Here, Herbert 7,500, Ziam 8,700 on DraftKings. And Bad Lab, I'll just take it to you here. But one thing I will say, these fighters kind of similar in a lot of ways. What are you seeing here with this fight?
Yeah, you're actually absolutely right. These guys are very similar. But the thing with Jai Herbert is, like, this is another guy, like we talked about Lerone Murphy. This is a guy who literally – he hasn't really shown how good he is. He is a good fighter. Like, Jai Herbert is a talented fighter. We saw it against Topuria. They asked Topuria in an interview, they said, what was the hardest you ever been hit? He almost knocked him out with that head kick. I mean, he dropped Topuria. Topuria got up. But the problem with Jai Herbert is sometimes he becomes over aggressive. And this is where the difference in the fight happens for me. When Jai Herbert drops you or Jai Herbert does something good, he sometimes overcommits. And when you overcommit, you get sloppy. And he overcommitted with Topuria, and Topuria ended up making him pay for it, ultimately knocking him out later in the fight. The thing I like about Ziam is he's not as flashy as Herbert. He's not really as fast as Herbert, but what he does is he works behind a really good jab. He uses a double jab, which I like. He'll go upstairs, he'll go downstairs, he'll stay upstairs, but he really works behind a nice double jab. He does switch it on and off. He does understand how to go from southpaw to orthodox. He does have grappling in his back pocket. I just think he's a little bit more technically wired together. Where Jai Herbert's a little bit more, flashy. He probably has the better upside to make something happen quicker, where Ziam is more of like the marathon. This guy's going to work you and work you and work you until, he gains the edge from round to round. Tough fight. It's a really, really tough fight. I just don't like the price on Ziam at 8,700. I think he's the rightful favorite in this spot, but from an $8,700 price tag for a guy who works behind a technical, fighting style where he's not so chaotic, it's kind of a tough sell at 8,700. Herbert's live. We obviously know the guy ties into his punches and kicks together very, very well. He'll throw a kick off the jab, a high kick off the jab that you don't even see coming. He caught Topuria with it. But like I said, and sometimes that overcommitment can startle a fighter and drop a fighter. So there is upside for Herbert there. Ultimately, I do think Ziam is the side if you're picking the fight, but Herbert is definitely live at 7,500. I think he holds a little bit more value.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at both these guys, right? Technical, like to fight at range, low volume. Like this fight, from a DFS perspective, could be very low scoring. It could just be very low scoring. I think for that standpoint, it's definitely dog or pass in DFS. And I think I actually like Jai Herbert to win. The only thing I see as an advantage for Ziam is the grappling, like you said, Mad Lab. That's, I think, where he has the advantage here if he wants to do that. But I think Jai Herbert is, like you said, I think he's better than what people think of him. I'm not talking from DFS, just as a fighter in general. I think he just is, and he hasn't really shown it all the time. But man, if he can put it together, I think he could definitely take this fight here. And at 7,500, maybe I'll have a few shares of him. Just for me, though, the low volume in general scares me from both these fighters, where I'm not going to be high on this fight from DFS. I'll be underweight, which I would assume this is a lower owned fight on the 15 fight card, right, Drew?
It is, yeah. So I think this fight's okay to target just for that fact alone. I will say Herbert's really interesting. If you just kind of take away the grappling from Ziam, Herbert and Ziam are basically a coin flip between a KO rate throughout every single round. And in fact, I think Herbert's actually a favorite after round 1 for a KO, which is interesting. Ziam does have the grappling advantage, so that's why his inside the distance number is a little bit higher. He just has that extra facet. But I think both these guys, and I'll bring up the ownership really quick. I have Ziam at 19% and Herbert at 13.5%. So between the both of them, I actually think you could actually, play the field or be a little bit over the field, and it's not killing your exposure. So I think Herbert's live via KO at 7,500. It opens up your salary. And I still think Ziam at 8,700 is okay. If it is slow, obviously this could be a dud, but he actually projects out well for whatever reason. I think just significant strikes. And in this range, there's really not a lot of other guys that I want to go to. We talked about Bruno Brazil earlier, Leroy Murphy last fight. So I think I'm actually going to have some Ziam for tomorrow's slate. And I'll also have some Herbert to hedge a little bit as well.
Yeah, this fight card, the more we talk about this fight card, I could see a really, really weird lineup winning, because there are a lot of live dogs on this card. Like, it could be a very interesting optimal lineup. I will just say that. But
it's a lot of coin flips. A lot of coin flips. I mean, like, honestly, 60-40 is still a coin flip in sports. So, there's a lot of close fights and a lot with finishing upside across, 9K down to 7K.
Yep, it's going to be a fun one. We got the next fight here. Andre Muniz versus Paul Craig here. Paul Craig, I should have said his name better. I love another fighter that I just love watching. Just an absolute.
How would you say it better, JSU? Just curious.
I would have amped it up, Drew. I would have gave him a little more pizzazz when I said his name. There was no respect in his name. I should have gave him a little more respect.
Craig. It sounds like a steakhouse, Paul Craig Steakhouse.
See how Mad Lab's just looking to make fun.
Dude, he just wants to be an agent for these guys and just get them all,
Paul Craig, I would definitely love to learn some. That dude is a friggin' wizard with some of the crap that he comes out with. But Mad Lab, break down this fight here. 6,900 for Craig in DFS and 9,300 for Muniz.
Yeah,
this is not a bad fight to target, though, for DFS.
Yeah, the thing with the perception with people that kind of understand is, Paul Craig is a good grappler. We all understand he's a good grappler, but you also got to understand that he only has a couple submissions that he's really good at. He's good with the triangle. He'll latch onto certain things. But as far as if you ever watch his like transitional grappling, it's not like he's like this fucking ace of spades in grappling. He's a very opportunistic grappler, and if you give him an inch, he'll take a yard. Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, that could have a chance against someone like Muniz, who literally got tapped out by who do you got? Brendan Allen. Okay, but what people aren't understanding is two things. One thing, Brendan Allen's a black belt under Daniel Wanderlei, who is a legit black belt to get. And number two is, you guys got to remember that, just because somebody's good at grappling doesn't mean that they're going to come into the fight and they're going to be able to grapple in a fight. The reason why, Muniz lost that fight to Brendan Allen is because Brendan Allen also has hands. I say this all the time. You can have a black belt all you want. I don't care where it's from. If you can't take a punch and you don't know how to grapple and avoid punches or not worry about them while you're trying to be offensive with grappling, it's not like a tournament where you guys got a gi on, you're grabbing sleeves, you don't got to worry about elbows, knees, forearms. When you got to worry about strikes, it's a big difference. Muniz doesn't have to worry about strikes here. He doesn't have to worry about anything with striking. He's got to worry about grappling. And this guy is a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which he honestly is. I know Craig's got a high submission upside, but Muniz's grappling is on a different stratosphere when it comes to overall transitioning, having, certain submissions in his back pocket. So I personally think on this side of the fence, this is a Muniz possibility of Muniz submitting Craig. You know what I mean? So, Muniz does have decent striking. Obviously anybody's striking is better than Craig. The guy's striking is fucking horrendous outside of his front kicks and stuff like that. But I think this is Muniz's fight to win or lose. Like if he loses this fight, it's because he lost his fight on his own merit. But I think you're going to see a stark difference on the ground. I don't think that he's going to give Craig any opportunities to throw up the legs, throw up the triangles.
So I got a question, Mad Lab, for someone who's fought and knows a lot about this. And Sean V says Craig has no hands, which you just said, right? I know that Muniz, I get it. Black belt can grapple. He's on a different stratosphere. I understand all that. Why, though, would he even take it there in a game plan scenario? I get that he's better, but that's the one spot you said Paul Craig is still dangerous.
Yeah, but
why wouldn't you just stand and throw if he has no hands? Because Muniz does have hands. He can strike. He can strike. He can throw.
But how do you get caught in a triangle? You get caught in a triangle one way. A lot of guys like Ankalaev, when he was on top of him, he's on top of him this way. And he's coming down, he's throwing punches, right? So the way to get caught in the triangle is one arm in, one arm out. That's where you get charged. If you have both arms in or both arms out, you're not getting caught up in the triangle. Yeah. That's grappling 101, bro. Like where your arm placements are and stuff like that. He's not going to do that. If anything, Muniz is going to take him down and he's going to literally transition his way to maybe back control or side control. He's not going to make those sloppy mistakes where these guys, if they do get Craig down, they're looking to finish him. They're looking to throw their arms. And all of a sudden, one arm's out, one arm's in. He throws up the triangle and it's out. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be that way. He's not going to get on top of him and kind of arch his way up and start ground and pound him. He's going to look to work his grappling game. But you're right. He can absolutely stay on the feet and pick him apart. And if he starts losing a little traction, he can take it there. I don't see a world where Craig submits this guy. I don't. I would be very, very shocked, more shocked if Craig, it would almost be to me, like Fluffy Hernandez when he submitted Rodolfo Vieira. Like, you know what I mean? It can happen. It does happen. But you got to remember that Craig's grappling is opportunistic where Muniz makes things happen. You know what I mean?
Yep. I get you. I get you 100%. In my mind, I'm just like, if a dude is totally deficient in one area and you're better than him, even if you are great in the other area, why wouldn't you just stand? Why wouldn't you just force him? I mean, he'll probably pull guard at some point. I'm sure Mad Lab will probably pull guard at some point and force it down there anyways. But then if you're Muniz, you just accept that because you're a black belt. You know what I mean? Like, you're not afraid of that spot either. But I'm just saying.
But think about this. Think about your Golden Gloves, right? I'm Golden Gloves. We're both Golden Gloves. We both go into an MMA fight. We both think my box is better than his. He's Golden Gloves. I'm Golden Gloves. Fuck going to the ground and see who's better. So it could be a thing where Muniz says, this fucking guy thinks he can grapple. I'm going to show him how to grapple. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. That could be it too. I guess we don't really know how these guys really come into fights thinking is the true point. But that's the interesting and fun part about breaking these things down. Then you watch the fights and you kind of see. I mean, we'll know if he's thinking that, right, Mad Lab? We'll know early if Muniz is like, I'm going to show people I'm the real deal down here, not him. And, maybe that's what it is. But I do think this fight can finish. I think Muniz can definitely get a finish here. I think he could score well. And if Paul Craig somehow does throw up a submission at his price tag and he gets a finish, he's obviously going to score well too early if he somehow did it. But I think Muniz is definitely a good spot to target in DFS. I think it's a good fight to target because I think someone's going out, whether it's submission or by knockout. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, and Craig's going to be super low. And so I love this fight. I'm really, really high on Muniz. I'm going to be way overweight or pretty well overweight. Muniz I have at 25% and Craig I have at 11.5%. So, yeah, I'm going to be probably 35% owned for Muniz and Craig probably around 15%, just to sprinkle. to have a little bit of the other side. But Muniz is my highest rated fighter, not counting Aspinall, over 9K. I should say, besides Alvarez, sorry.
I'm gonna let Drew introduce
don't say
that fight.
anything. I let him go the whole show calling him Aspinall.
I'm gonna call him Aspinall. He's probably fuck.
All right, Tommy boy. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got Nathaniel Wood against Andre Fili here. 7K for Fili and 9,200 for Nathaniel Wood here. Mad Lab, coming back to you with this one. I think this fight is going to be a close fight. I think Fili is a solid fighter, and I think there's going to be something that Nathaniel Wood's going to struggle with, and that's that height and reach. But what are you seeing here with this fight?
Listen, man, I always find that one guy on the card that I ride with, and from a public perception area, and it was Dan Hooker 2 weeks ago. It was Norma Dumont and Sadikov last week. This week it's Fili, man. Like when you look at this guy, this is a guy who you got to remember. Nathaniel Wood's coming up from 35s to 45, so that's a thing in itself. You got to wonder, is his power going to translate? A lot of guys' power doesn't translate over. You know what I mean? So you got to see, and he's got 2 wins right now at 45, which is great. But Andre Fili is a completely different animal. This is a guy who's actually big for the division. Where Nathaniel Woods is small for the division, Andre Fili is big for the division. Also, there's something to be said about him training an alpha male. Alpha male is like the old school Quest back in the day. If you were a fighter out of Quest, you knew how to wrestle. This kid knows how to wrestle. He works behind a really, really good jab. He understands range. He understands, range management. If you look at his fight against Pineda, the one that was a no contest, he literally was beating him, rinsing him from pillar to post until that eye poke. One of his better performances I've seen in a while. Then he comes back and he loses to Joe Anderson Brito. But the problem with that fight that everybody's seeing on paper is that they all only see the KO. That's what they see, KO. So they're like, oh, well, he ended up getting KO'd. He's chinny. He really didn't get KO'd. If you look at it, he got dropped. Joe Anderson Brito jumped him. The ref called off the fight. But you got to look at the difference between it being knocked out and the fight being stopped. He jumped out. He pulled his mouthpiece out. He walked directly back to his corner like, I fucked up. He was completely coherent. The guy wasn't knocked out, but he lost the fight. He ended up, overcommitting and losing the fight. Then he comes back and he fights Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo is a guy that I called his fights cage side in New Jersey. I was literally cage side during Ring of Combat calling this guy's fights. And I know how good he is. And you really haven't seen how good Bill Algeo is yet. He's a very, very tricky fighter. He uses very orthodox angles and stuff like that. So to really pin him down, you have to have orthodox, unorthodox angles and stuff like that. And what makes Fili good is Fili knows how to switch off from southpaw to orthodox just as well as he fights southpaw just as well as he fights orthodox. He works behind a good double jab. He's got good entries on with his wrestling. This is a fight here where I think Nathaniel Wood has to prove to me that he could beat someone like Fili at 145. Not the other way around, not Fili going into his home territory and say, well, I wonder if Fili can win this fight. It's more Nathaniel Wood has to prove to me that, yeah, I could beat a guy like Andre Fili in this division. So for that reason, I'm going with Fili here. I think it's going to be a super close fight. I think there's, I'm going to say more than not, it might go to the cards, but at 7,000, at 7,000, Fili's going to cover at 7,000 if he wins, where I don't know if Wood will. What the fuck are you laughing at, JSU?
No, I'm not laughing. I love this take by you because this is this is one of my favorite dog spots to target. I'm all over Fili. This is my favorite spot. And it wasn't laughing. I was smiling because I was happy that we were on the same side of this fight because I think this is not a good match. When you watch Nathaniel Wood fight, he likes to he gets in, he wants to get in. He's short, right? He's short. So he gets in close. He kind of dirty boxes. When you try and get in close with someone like Fili, he's going to light you up. He's going to stay at range. He's going to light Nathaniel Wood up when he comes in the pocket, and he's going to get out. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this fight. I think Wood's going to really struggle with that range, with that reach advantage, the height advantage. We're talking about someone who's almost 6 feet and someone who's like my size, like 5'6", 5'5", 5'6", and Fili's like 5'11", 6 feet tall. You know what I mean? This isn't like a little difference. This is going to be a big difference, big reach advantage. And I think Fili's going to use that. And I think that's where Nathaniel Wood's going to get in trouble. And like you said, Fili can take this thing wherever he wants to go. He's a good all-around fighter, and this is a good test for someone like Nathaniel Wood, who they want to be this guy, but what has he really done? We'll see here when he gets in with someone like Fili, because I think it's going to be a good test for him. Like you said, good fight. I like Fili to win, whether it goes to decision or, maybe he finishes Wood. I don't know. I think he can, personally.
Well, here's a nugget for you on that fight, too. All signs were pointing, before they signed this fight, all signs were pointing that he was going to fight Leron Murphy. So if Wood was going to fight Leron Murphy, that fight would have been obviously standing. But they didn't want to take two good prospects, put them together, and blow one of them up. So they put them both on this card, fighting separate people, in the hopes that both of them win. So if they win, they win. But the point of the matter is it's a completely different style than Fili. You know what I mean? So I like I said, listen, I like Nathaniel Wood. I think the kid is game. I think he's a very talented fighter. I don't think this is going to hinder him at all. But you got to show me that you could beat somebody like Fili at 45 before I pick you.
I'm with it. I love it here. Drew, what are you thinking with this fight?
Yeah, 25% for Wood and 18% for Fili. I don't like either side by the numbers. I'll fade Wood, but it sounds like you guys are pretty high on Fili, so I'm gonna go against my numbers a bit and play some Fili at 7K. But yeah, Wood at his ownership, at his price, he grades out pretty poorly for me. So Fili will be the call, and 18% there, match the field or just over is probably comfortable.
Cool. By the way, chat, I just want you to know, did you guys see how Mad Lab came at me in that fight? He was ready to fight me. He was ready to come through the camera.
No, we agreed with each other.
No, he thought I was laughing.
You didn't like he was laughing.
Oh, I thought you was laughing at something I said.
But I was saying to Chet, you were ready to come at me.
No.
All right, JSU, we're on the undercard here now. 16 fights on the card. Yeah, honestly, the height. What are you, 6 feet, Mad Lab? How tall are you?
6'2".
6'2". All right.
That's not the problem, JSU. That's not the problem. It's the weight that's going to land on you.
Weight,
be the problem.
Oh, I'm 146. I'm the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life. I weigh 145 pounds.
I'm 260. I got over 100 pounds on you.
Yeah, you over 100 pounds on me, bro. And
you got 2 JSUs in you. You're almost at 2 JSUs.
So how heavy do you think I was in high school?
115.
115. Did you wrestle?
I did wrestle for like a year, but
I was going to corner him to get his weight that way. Oh. What, you were 115 in high school?
I was 115 freshman year. Yeah,
shit.
And I stayed I was 125 when I graduated. I stayed that weight till I was 29, 30 years old.
Wow.
Yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm 30. I'll be 32 in a month. Screw you, Drew. But
it's a big bulk in the last 2 years. A big bulk.
Yeah, you got that. In college, they called it what, the freshman 15?
Yeah, there was no 15 with me. You know what it was? I started to just eat whatever I wanted. Remember, I told you guys I didn't drink, I started to eat, and that's what changed it or whatever.
Dude, when I went to college, I had to leave for college 2 days after graduation in high school for camp, right? So I ended up going to college. I leave. It was like I was alone. It's like you go from living home to all of a sudden 2 days later living in a hot dormitory and fucking, in the summertime all summer. And I could say this here. I don't care. It's fucking public knowledge. But that was when I found my first cycle of juice, right? And I didn't go home the whole summer, bro. I didn't go home the whole summer. So then my father came to pick me up. After summer sessions. And I remember my roommate was up there for wrestling. And we were fucking trying to find the baggiest fucking shirt that we could. Bro, I put on like 35 fucking pounds over the summer. And my mother started, what the fuck happened to you? What, screaming.
ready to get the belt out on you or something like that. What happened to you, man?
What happened to you? What are they feeding you up there?
Well,
I had JSU's problem. I had to go find those BSN bulk thing. It was like 1,200 calories in a scoop of that BSN mass builder or something in college, because I was like 145, I think. And then
the mass builder.
I got to 210 in about a year, just dirty bulk. It was terrible. But there's a way to do it.
Taking those cybergenics. Remember that shit?
Oh my God.
Cybergenic.
I never took anything crazy. The craziest thing, I never really took anything crazy. I did a lot of creatine and
I knew Jason was going to say that.
Yeah, he was taking phosphagen.
But that was about it. I didn't do anything.
You guys remember Ultimate Orange?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I remember it.
Remember they pulled it off the market, Ultimate Orange?
Yep.
That shit used to make your fucking eyes like beetles.
There was a few things that used to do crazy shit to your head. You'd be like spinning after taking it, like ready to run through a wall. But yeah, some of that stuff probably not good for you, but that's all right. We got 2 more fights left on the card. We got Meatball, Molly McCann here fighting Julia Stoliarenko. Don't ask me how I got that name right. I don't really know. But Stoliarenko, 6,800 on DraftKings. Molly McCann, 9,400 on DraftKings. What are you thinking here, Mad Lab, with this fight?
Man, listen, Molly McCann, you got to read into the business of it. Molly McCann would never headline anywhere outside of, co-main anywhere outside of London. You know what I mean? I mean, where is she really, and she's got the uncanny ability to not being a good fighter, but being a fan favorite. And credit to her. That's what the UFC likes. They like, that fighter that's going to be, a fan favorite. If she's going to win some fights, great. She had that one that was almost like a knockout of the year. But when you look at this fight against Stoliarenko, like all signs are pointing like there's a very simple blueprint to beat her. She's a good grappler, but she only has a couple submissions under her belt. And it's almost boils down to like the Paul Craig thing. Like you got to keep your limbs in. You can't have one arm in, one arm out. Like you just got to be very, very cautious when you do hit the ground with her. The problem with Molly McCann that concerns me with her in this fight is that sometimes she lets the atmosphere get to her, where I think that she can make that mistake and say, look, I'm going to take it to the ground and I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like she gets very frenetic in her fight. She doesn't know how to hold serve in there. So that does make me nervous in there. But I mean, if you look at the paths to this fight, all signs are pointing to Molly McCann. The problem is she going to cover her value at 9,400? Is Stoliarenko going to be able to put her in some kind of trouble in a round that's going to take valuable points away from her, where she's got to fight her way out and the crowd goes nuts? And I don't know. I mean, from a pick perspective, I think Molly McCann is probably the safer pick. But at 6,800, even though I don't like Stoliarenko and I don't think she's UFC caliber fighter, like who's to say that she can't suck up a limb on McCann? It's not like McCann is a seasoned grappler. She does make mistakes. So it's a fight that I can see Molly McCann knocking her out, but I can also see Molly McCann making a major, major fucking mistake in this fight.
I think you said it kind of perfectly when you said it's kind of similar to the Muniz Paul Craig fight in a way, where like that's the blueprint. Stay out of trouble there, and you're gonna win. Pretty much is what you said, and I think that's what it is with Molly. The question is, does Molly finish her? Does she at 9,400? Like, does she have the upside at that price tag that like Aspinall or Muradov or some of these other guys like in that range has? So that's the question for me. I do think if Molly cannot let the crowd, get to her in that way, like you said, which is going to be tough, I will say, it wouldn't shock me if Stoliarenko did catch her in something like that. It could definitely happen. But I mean, Molly McCann probably does win this fight. I just don't know if she's going to score well enough for me to be like super excited about playing her here, Drew. That's just the way I see it. But what are the numbers saying?
Yeah, women's fight to finish inside the distance is always kind of short-lived. But Molly McCann, I have her at 21% and Stoliarenko at 15%. So I kind of like both sides of this. I want a little bit of exposure to McCann if I can get her, and Stoliarenko at 15% owned. I think she's still live to actually win this at some point potentially. So I have her actually grading out as a decent dog. But I think Molly McCann's actually decent for 9,400. I'm a little bit higher on her, it looks like, just based on her ownership. She'll be the lowest owned outside of Vieira in the 9K range.
I will say Stoliarenko, like if you watch the fight against Chandler, where everyone remembers Chandler winning that fight, there was like 3 different, she went for that, I think it was the armbar early, didn't get it, got her position reversed, Chandler got on top. Like there was multiple times where she'd go for something from the grappling or the takedown and then get reversed or find herself losing position trying to go for something. So she will, so I wouldn't be shocked if like
her
Molly
submission number looks good. Her submission,
submission is how she would win, I think, right, Mad Lab?
Yeah.
She's 11-1 in round 2, which is about a 21% implied number for.
Bro, in order for her to win a decision in this fucking fight over the pond, like she would literally have to stab Molly McCann.
take a roller skate, ice skate to her.
Yeah, I mean, like Molly McCann would have to get like 3 points taken away for her to lose the decision over the pond.
Yeah, I don't think outside of a submission that Molly gets caught up in. I don't think she's losing this fight. I will just say that's probably not going to happen in a decision. But, yeah, I mean, I think Molly McCann wins. I mean, Stoliarenko, like Mad Lab said, not that good. It's just that fact, you know what I mean? She's going to go for what she goes for. She's going to go for those submission attempts. Probably will lose position if she doesn't get it, and that's going to be kind of what happened to her with the Chandler fight, and Molly will throw down. You know, Molly will, finish it. So maybe I should be higher on this fight. I don't know. I just don't. I don't think she's a better play than Aspinall or Muniz or Muradov, but could be wrong. She could.
Was I mispronouncing his name? Why are you guys making fun?
No.
of
Let it go, Jess. You don't say it.
Yeah. So
let him bring the main event in.
Yeah, Drew. You know, we're on the main fight. Let's have you bring the main fight in here.
Happy to. I got my guy Tom Aspinall. I don't know.
This is so good.
Minus 480.
It sounds like something you would put in a martini. Aspinall.
Aspinall. Is it Aspinall?
Aspinall, yeah.
Aspinall. That's close. It's different dialect down here in Florida. We have the stupid dialect. So Aspinall and against plus 360 Marcin Tybura. I probably butchered that one worse. I will kick it over to Mad Lab because I'm sliding JSU at the moment for making fun of Aspinall. Like shit, man. I don't even think you pronounced the first name.
You didn't get Tybura wrong. You got that one right.
Marcin Tybura? I think I've heard his name before. I don't know what
that's right.
Aspinall.
Right.
Shit.
We got to get a little fucking name, like a clock on the bottom that shows all the times we fuck names up.
I'm sure it's out there.
That shit up that's why DC hosts the show, so I don't have to fuck the names up all the time.
DC fucks them up. We just don't say anything to him because he's like, I don't care. I don't care.
That's a good point. Well, you know that Mad Lab laughing every time I say a bad name. Mad Lab doesn't make fun of DC as much as he does JSU. I'm an easy target, Mad Lab. I don't know if you notice it. No. I'm an easy target.
No. Well, I don't think DC says any of the names right.
Yeah, he does. That's why we can't make fun of him. That's just all wrong.
When he says it right, we'll make fun.
There you go.
Well, when you look at this fight, I got to be honest with you guys. Like, if too many people are pigeonholing to who Tom Aspinall was, what are you laughing at?
You almost missaid it.
Oh yeah, because I'm so used to you saying it.
I know you thought about it.
So who Tom Aspinall was? Like this is a guy who. He reminds me of like a hybrid Frank Mir. Like, he's got, he's very well-rounded, good striking, finishes things quick, good boxing, really good grappling, good wrestling. Like, the guy's got everything. Like, the guy really does have everything. But what people aren't realizing is just 1 year ago, this guy had a devastating knee injury. So if you're expecting Tom Aspinall from before the knee injury, maybe you do get him. But there's no guarantee you're getting that fucking Tom Aspinall. Like, there's no guarantee you're getting that guy. And what I mean that is when people are saying, oh, well, it's really not that long of a layoff, 1 year. First of all, you got to remember when you tour, I don't know if you guys ever tore your ACL or MCL. I have. And I've had a litany of fucking injuries in my life. And the two injuries that were the worst for me to recover on was my torn ACL, MCL, and my talus fracture, where I had to get trauma surgery on it. That put me in a wheelchair for fucking 3 months. And when I was healed, it's the confidence. Like, I remember when I went back to grappling, like, I flagged my ankle. I was so afraid for people to attack my ankle. I wasn't sure if it was sturdy. And I'm a bigger guy. Aspinall's a bigger guy. So not only was he on his back for a little while, not only did he have to learn to, like, brisk walk again, light jog, and wean his way back into camp, he also at that point in time was on his back, and he was gaining weight. These guys don't have metabolisms like the 45ers or the 55ers. So this guy, not only did he have to go into his camp, he could not go full fucking bore for this camp, nonstop. He still had to shed the weight. He still had to work on get his conditioning back. Like, there was a lot of work that he needed to do for 1 year to get to this spot. I don't agree. I understand what they did. They built this card around him. You know what I mean? But I don't like that they're putting him in a 5-round fight right out of the gate. with a guy like Tybura. Like, I would have liked to see him in a 3-round fight. Let the guy test his knee a little bit. Let him get the confidence back on his knee a little bit. What happens if Tybura comes in this fight and, look, there's no friends in the cage, and he starts targeting his knee and starts chopping at his knee, and Aspinall starts thinking to himself, well, is this thing going to hold up? Or, you know what I mean? So it's a dicey situation. I am picking Aspinall to win the fight. But I'm being honest with you. Like, people are saying like first round, second round. I wouldn't be shocked if this fight goes deeper. Like, Tybura is a tough dude. He lost a lot of weight. This guy, this guy won me a lot of money in the past. And I'm not saying that he's my pick, but he has won because a lot of people sleep on how good Tybura actually is. I do believe Aspinall is a better fighter. I do believe before his injury, then yeah, I would probably say Aspinall first round, but he does have the injury, and that's just the realistic fact of the matter. And you don't know what you're going to get from him. Who's to say that he doesn't throw a fucking kick and he doesn't tear it again? You don't know. Like, you really, really don't know until he goes live. So I'm picking Aspinall here, but I'm going to give Tybura some love at 6,500. Like, I'm not going to back off him totally like a lot of people do. I'm going to have my shares of Aspinall, but I'm not as confident that he's going to get this done quick like a lot of people are. Like, he's got to show me that knee is going to hold up.
Do you think coming off an injury like that, because I've worked with athletes, college athletes coming off of ACLs, MCLs, Achilles, stuff like that. Do you think like coming off an injury like that makes him kind of press a little more to try and get him out early, Mad Lab, like worrying about if it goes later into the fight with his cardio? Who knows where all that stuff's at? Do you think that's something he like thinks about in the back of his head? What if my leg gets kicked? What if later in the rounds he's grinding up against the cage, which Tybura will do. He's going to grind you. He's going to kind of try and hold you up against there and kind of grind you out. And there's no friends in the cage. He's going to knee him and hit him. And yeah, he probably will hit it around his knee. Like, that's just.
This is the way they make their money, bro. Like, there's no friends in the cage. He's not going to be like, all right, we're getting into this fight. But listen, man, I'm going to take it easy on his knee. I don't want him to get. No, he's going to target that knee. You know what I mean? So it's the point of the matter. It depends the way the fight goes. If I wouldn't say that Aspinall is going to come in and charge the pocket. I think he is going to want to test it out a little bit. He's going to want to hop up and down on it. He wants to see how it feels when he locks up on him. Like, he's going to want to. He's not just going to charge and be like, all right, here we go. I'm good to go. I mean, at least I don't think he's going to. If he does, then listen, he's fully healed, and he showed me he's fully healed. But I see a situation where he kind of backs up a little bit, and he might be afraid of his conditioning. Not being all there, and he might not put on that kind of a pace because he knows if I don't get Tybura out of there in 1 or 2 rounds, he could start making it a little dirty. But like I said, I'm picking Aspinall to win. But the guys that are like banking on him getting a first round win, I'd be very, very weary of that because you don't know how he's going to approach that first round. He might really come in and be hesitant because of his knee in first round. Then all of a sudden now you're in the second round, and then maybe now you're in the third round. This guy has a lot of first round finishes, but that can't last forever. Like, he's not going to have his whole career with first round finishes and first round endings. Like, eventually he's going to have a fight where he's going to face a little adversity. Who's to say coming off a knee injury, it's not going to be here? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. It makes some sense. I just think for Aspinall, it feels like the path for him is get the wrestling. Just take the worry of the knee out, get in, get that wrestling. We've seen Tybura get taken down. We've seen Aspinall go for, takedown attempts, get people to the ground. And it's probably his easiest path, I think, to victory here, personally. And if he's smart, I think it makes sense for him. Take that worry of someone targeting your knee out of it. Literally, get this to the mat where I think he could be the better and have success in that point. And, I mean, listen, he does have early finishes. We all seen it. So he has the upside in DFS. He's 9,700. Tybura is 6,500. Tybura in a decision win, it is 5 rounds, so he's going to score a little better if he were to win. I don't think it goes to decision, so I think Tom Aspinall does win. But I'll tell you right now, if it does go to decision, I think it's probably more leaning towards Tybura winning than Aspinall if it goes to decision because the dude is a grinder. So I'm picking Aspinall. I think he finishes the fight. I won't say first round, but I do think he finishes here. And I think he puts his wrestling on. I think that's the way to get it. You kind of test the cardio, but he can move through positions. It help his cardio out a little bit by, getting on the ground and moving through some positions. Will definitely make that easier, I think, than grinding out a fight with someone like Tybura who wants to like just kind of melt you down and stuff like that and make it a grimy type fight.
You got to take into consideration too. In 15 fights, he's only been out of the second round. He's only been in. He's never been out of the second. He's only been into the second round 3 times in his career. You know what I mean? So coming off a knee injury, his conditioning probably isn't peak performance. What happens if it does go into the third? And this is the first time ever now he's facing a third round. Like that's all I'm saying. Like you're right. You're right. He's most likely going to win this fight inside the distance. But there is a realistic world where that you could see a performance decline because this injury is fairly new.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, if he finishes inside the distance, he's going to score well. Like that's just the truth. You know what I mean? He's going to score well. And for DFS, I'm going to be heavy on Aspinall. But I think that's everyone's pretty much in on Aspinall. Like Mad Lab said, I think everyone he's going to be the highest owned fighter on the card, right, Drew?
Yeah, 45%. So 20% over the next or 15% over the next highest, pretty much. Yeah, he's going to be really high owned. I got Tybura at 8%. Aspinall grades out really well for me. I get Mad Lab's concerns. I imagine though Aspinall knows it's a 5-round fight and has prepared a little bit from a conditioning standpoint to be ready for that, but possibly. I know a lot of this is probably baked into Aspinall's history of round 1 finishes. So Aspinall grades out really well. 9,700, 45% owned, 78% implied inside the distance number. So from a numbers standpoint, he does grade out really well. I don't mind a sprinkle of Tybura at 6,500 if he does go the distance and does win in a decision. I can see it. I mean, Tybura does have a pretty good record as well. I just know Aspinall is just of another level as he's been the last 5-6 years. So, I'm going to pick Aspinall to win, but Tybura is not just completely a fade, I think.
Yeah, I think Aspinall is just more dangerous, right? He's just more dangerous, like a little bit.
He's a scary fade. He's a scary fade.
Yeah, from a DFS side.
Correct.
But,
yeah.
I mean, that's where you got to take into account the ownership, 9,700. Maybe he only scores like 100, and he's not optimal because 2 of the other 9K guys score, a little higher. So it's possible.
5 rounds, though. I mean, he should get to 120, I would think, at least if he wins. Like for a 5-round fight, I would assume he would still get to 120, but who knows? It just you're banking on a finish. You're banking on a round 2 or better finish.
Well, like Mad Lab said, though, this dude's never went past the second round, right, Mad Lab? Like all of his fights?
Yeah, he's only been into the second round 3 times in his career.
We'll see what happens. But, I think we're all on board that Tom Aspinall wins. Mad Lab's a little more cautious on maybe the betting aspect of Tom Aspinall, right, Mad Lab?
That line is. I wouldn't go near that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, All right, boys, my wife actually just texted me saying, can you boys wrap it up a little bit so I can get on with my day? I was like, maybe I should talk for another 5 minutes, Mad Lab. Drew, we should just talk about us fucking up names, or me and Drew fucking up names and Mad Lab laughing at us and stuff like that. But we'll get through this here, guys. If you want more of the content, we've got it all for you. Run Pure Sports Summer 33 is the promo code right now. 33% off your weekly or monthly installments, payments, whatever you want to call it, to Run Pure Sports here. Join up and let's friggin' crush this card here, Mad Lab. I hope you hit it strong today in the books. I know you're going to have all your bets, everything posted. Your breakdowns for the main card will be up on Run Pure Sports with everything else we got going. Drew's going to have his core plays up. I'll have my cores up. All the write-ups and everything, they'll be up tonight because that card locks at, 12 tomorrow?
12 your time. Eastern? Yeah, 9 my time, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's kill it today. Guys, get in the Discord if you do join, and let's all run pure. For me, JSU, Mad Lab, and Drew, good luck to everyone tomorrow. We'll see you guys next week. We're out.